Hello, movie fans. Welcome to another episode of Logan's Movie Reviews, and today we are talking about Us from 2019, directed by Jordan Peele and starring Lupita blah 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 blah. And she's also flanked by a not very star-studded cast, but a very talented cast,
including her co-star for Black Panther, Winston Duke.
Right, who you can barely tell that that's the same guy.
He's an ultimate nerd in this movie. Yeah.
Now, this movie is the second from Mr. Peele, who catapulted himself into. I mean, he's just like the number one guy in the horror department now. Now, I would argue that this movie is not a horror movie. That this movie is basically a crazy science fiction movie that has horrific elements, and also it has social commentary.
A lot of social commentary and a psychological thriller as well.
Yes, but it ultimately, like, it doesn't follow the same formula as a lot of horror movies do, but it's still freaky. It's still kind of demonic in many ways.
And it was classified as a horror film. One of the highest grossing horror films of all time. The highest grossing for a debut weekend box office for a horror film that was not a sequel.
Right. And it's got to be, I mean, yeah, it was just a phenomenon with this. What about his first movie, though? This did pretty well, too, right?
Get Out grossed $18 million its first weekend. Us grossed $68 million its first weekend. Huge upswing.
And because they were, they had goodwill from the first movie because everyone loved that movie. Yes. So a lot of people came into Us and they thought they were going to get something. Now, I really think, I think Us is like a deeper meaning movie than fucking the first one because it just has more subtle parts to it. Like, the first one is like overt, almost. It's almost like a Key and Peele sketch, whereas this thing is
what?
Just
they actually, when Jordan Peele went to the Oscars, as he was up for Get Out and won for Get Out, they asked him what kind of movie would you classify Get Out? Is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Is it a comedy drama? Is it a thriller? He said, "Oh no, it's a documentary."
So the whole thing's a big fucking joke, but I love. It's a horror comedy. It's a classic horror comedy, but it's also
a dark comedy. But he poked fun, and Jordan Peele likes to poke fun. I was never a fan of the Key and Peele show. I liked what he's evolved into. The Key and Peele show, well, to me was a lot. It was trying to pick up where Dave Chappelle left off, the Chappelle show. But since he's branched out to become a writer-director, like you said, he's the hottest thing in Hollywood. And this past, it's been a great year for him. He's the new narrator and showrunner for The Twilight Zone.
Right. Yeah, he's playing the Rod Serling.
Yeah, he's the Rod Serling
role
of that show, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think he's writing some, too.
Yeah,
There's a lot of 80s nostalgia coming back, and Us kind of taps into it too.
With Their Hands Across America, 1986, this is basically a satire on that movement. I remember I was in high school when this shit was going on, Hands Across America, and I'm thinking at the time, how the fuck is everybody gonna hold hands from one end, a chain from one end of the country to the other? The movie starts in 1986. And then it fast forwards to 33 years later.
Very creative. No one's ever done anything like this.
The movie begins with her going to the amusement park with her parents, and her father, who seems inebriated, is not paying her any mind as he tries to win all these gifts. And then her mother has to go to the bathroom, and her mother tells her husband, Adelaide, played by Lupita, Adelaide's father, please watch her. She's too young to be wandering around by herself. I got to go to the bathroom. And then, of course, he doesn't pay attention. She wanders off, and she goes into a house of mirrors, and then we flash forward to a few months later where she's not speaking. She stopped speaking, and her parents are seeing a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is telling her, well, she could be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And her father's like, but wait, PTSD? I thought that only happened to Vietnam vets. I mean, and the doctor is telling the parents, well, get her involved in dancing, art, as a way to express herself. And they show her listening in, and then from there they flash to 33 years later, where she's happily married with 2 children.
Yeah, and they're headed to Long Beach, right? She's kind of apprehensive. She says, "Oh, but you know what? The scene opens up to this weird shot of all these rabbits in cages, and they're
that I didn't understand. That I didn't understand, all these damn rabbits. Yeah,
some weird stuff. I was like, how the fuck is this thing happening? But we should just talk about the central idea of the movie first. Like, I think we should let people talk about the ending first, and then kind of work up from it, because it makes sense to just go to the twist at the end. Now, the twist at the end is that Lupita's character, she was one of the tethered women. All right, before we even go there, let's talk about what happened here. The government set up a whole bunch of shadow versions of us, and because they wanted to control us like puppets. And these are like human clones of us, but without a soul. And they were basically like, I don't know if everybody's seen like the Puppet Master in Marvel Comics. Like, he would create like a clay form and then control that like a voodoo doll, but so different. But the idea is that if they could get these shadow versions of us, these soulless copies, they could figure out a way to just control us from below. But it was a failed experiment, so they decided to just let these guys wander under the subterranean halls of the earth. And it's mentioned at the beginning of the film that there's all these subterranean tunnels and no one knows why. And that's kind of true.
Right.
So he's just going from that, and he's writing this crazy tale about how they left all these copied humans to fend for themselves underneath. And there was only doorway between their world and our world was like these crazy funhouse mirror places. So I don't know, or just maybe this one beach, that was the only point of crossover. So when her counterpart on the up above comes down to the funhouse, she sees herself, and her counterpart underneath fucking kidnaps her, puts her in, locks her up, and then goes up above herself, puts on her Thriller T-shirt, and this girl can't talk because they don't talk down there. The reason why they have all the rabbits there is, from my understanding, is that they were experimenting on rabbits first. And so they just kind of had a whole bunch of clones of rabbits down there.
Which makes sense, because with any type of experimentation that the U.S. government does, it's always rabbits and rats.
Right. So there were just a whole bunch of rabbits, and that was the only food that they were able to have. So, yeah, rabbits, they're just wandering around, and I don't know what they eat. It's not a lot of explained there. And so after they switched places, everybody down underneath realized that she was different, that she could talk, for one. She organized everybody underneath into some coming out revolt that was essentially coming back to reclaim, I don't know, to kill their counterparts and take over their lives. I don't know what the mission was, but they all had the same fucking scissors and the same jumpsuits,
you think it's because she's down there and she's the only one that can speak, that she became a natural leader, and that she had this plan to get revenge on the girl who took her life, the shadow that took her life?
Yeah, exactly. That's what it was. But the question is, how does this happen? But whatever. How do they get the jumpsuits? How do they get the scissors? But who cares? Anyway, so it doesn't matter. So the thing we need to know is that they're like an army, and for some reason they got the idea, maybe because during the 80s, like there was this Hands Across America commercial, so they got the idea that they wanted to come to the surface and kill everybody and then do that. But that seemed to be like one of their goals, and like in the end of the movie, they're actually like doing it. So, kind of.
Well, that I guess that's the tie-in with Hands Across America.
They organized this revolt. The whole time we think that they're just being stalked by their counterparts from underneath. Actually, she has switched places with this girl, so she's really the tethered girl who grew up among the surface dwellers. They were dropping hints throughout the movie that she had love for the kids from underneath as well. She did not want to kill them because those are like kind of like really her kids.
Yeah, because she's the actual shadow. It's hard to explain. It's hard to understand how the shadow could give birth to the two real children, while her two shadow children are living underground with the real Adelaide.
All right, so we got the basics.
You up if you try to think about it.
Yeah, so we get the basic setup. Essentially, they're coming for what's theirs. So this family, they're headed to the beach, and the husband and the wife, they're having fun, but she's a little apprehensive. She doesn't know about this coming to the beach thing. She kind of just wants to hang out near the lake, not even ever go to the beach, because
she doesn't want to go nowhere near her real self is.
Right. They're supposed to meet this other couple who we can tell he's in a friendly competition with the man in the couple. Like, he's like, you see that car he got? Like, he got that to fuck with me. And they have this kind of like rivalry of just material, whatever. And he's just a typical, like, very straight-laced black professional guy, very white, talks like a white guy, basically. And he's trying to. He's really talking through his nose. And I didn't even know, like, does she have an accent in real life, Lupita? Or what is her, like, real accent? She can speak like a regular American. That's what's interesting.
Most African/British actors and actresses, Idris Elba, Damson Idris, perfect examples. They master the American voice.
Yeah. So then she's so they're there, and she doesn't want to go to the beach, but she at first says no, but then he kind of nags her into it, and then she decides, okay, but we're going to come back way before dark, and he's like, of course.
Yeah, he's like a big kid. Winston Duke's character is like a big kid. He's like a big. He's always looking to have fun with the kids, and he's like a jolly old white guy, except he's black.
Right. Totally non-threatening black guy, and he's very
a real nice guy, sweetheart, loves his children, loves his wife.
Right.
And he just wants to make money and live in the suburbs away from regular black folk.
So they get to the beach, and it's the chick from Mad Men, the chick from Handmaid's Tale.
Elizabeth Moss.
Right. And her husband, they're sitting there drinking, and she looks like she got a little plastic surgery, and you could tell that Lupita, what's her name in this? She's
Adelaide.
Adelaide is feeling very apprehensive, very distracted. She doesn't even want to drink. But meanwhile, she's really not paying attention to her kid. She's doing the exact same thing that her father did.
And her father did, yep.
Yeah. Not paying attention. Meanwhile, the kid goes to the bathroom.
I gotta also blame the mother, because the mother's going to the bathroom. If her daughter said she didn't want to go, just take her with you.
Yeah.
She knows how irresponsible her husband is. Both parents are to blame for what happened here.
Yeah, she sees, and they don't know what happened. That's the whole thing. Is like 15
They
minutes
never
she was
found
gone.
out. No, they never found out. No.
Right. All they know is now they got a mute daughter, so they had to like rehabilitate her like she had a stroke. So they probably think that she had some sexual experience, and like she was raped or something. But
Yeah,
I'm sure they had.
remember the psychiatrist said that she was suffering from PTSD. So something traumatic.
For 15 minutes.
Something traumatic happened to her. They just don't know what it is because she's not speaking. So she learned how to talk. The shadow learned how to talk through her parents, through her fake parents.
Exactly. And she learned. She went into dancing and she did all this dancing that and when she's underneath, she's like, I got to give you credit. Like without your shadow self coming out and dancing, I would have never danced. And I looked at that as like him saying, like, this is what you should be doing with your depression. You should be turning it into art. Like you should be like he's giving you all kinds of messages in this movie. He's not just telling you a story. That's what I think is important about understanding like what he's doing, because he's making a point about society, about like your life. He's not just showing you some stupid horror movie, and like I think that's his main thrust, and then it just ends up being like have some horrific scenes in there at the same time.
There's also another point he's making when their shadow selves come. Winston Duke's character calls the police, and the police never arrive.
Right. Well, you know why? Because the whole world is broke loose. Everybody's shadow
you know what?
self.
I forgot, because when they turn on the news afterwards, all the shadows have emerged from the tunnel, from the underneath tunnels. Yeah, you're right.
And it looks like they've just come and killed their counterparts and decided like we're going to take over. And what's interesting
like
about them
neighbors.
is that
like the shadows did to their neighbors. Yeah.
And these people are like, they're just gonna live our lives out, I guess as soulless creatures. I mean, I'm trying to think of like what the sequel to this movie is. But anyway, they show up on the driveway and they're just standing there, and he goes out there and he tries to talk to them nicely, and then he's like, if you guys want to get crazy, then we're gonna get crazy. So there's some comedy in this. He buys this boat, so like at one point they're like, they break in and they hurt him. They kind of beat him up. Like the counterpart that is him is a fucking tough dude who just screams. He can't even talk. None of them can talk.
The young son acts like a dog.
He's got a burned up face. He's like obsessed with fire. But the thing about it, what's interesting I found is that the way that they're defeated is because Adelaide is actually from underneath. So it's like she's from the streets, like she can.
So she knows how to battle these people, right?
Right, and everyone else is caught off guard except her, because she always knew this chick would be coming for her because she stole her place. And she kind of trained her son, or at least her son has this edge about him that allows him to defeat his counterpart. And he's kind of like a dark soul, like he wears a mask. He's kind of one of those kids that's like to himself that, might end up murdering his whole class. But I mean, he's definitely a twisted kid himself. Meanwhile, the daughter is very straight-laced. She doesn't have any shadow about her.
The daughter is a lot like how the mother was before the mother was switched.
Yeah. So then they come in, they break in, they hurt the dude. They don't really hurt anyone else, and they kind of just face each other. And that's when the son instantly is like, "This is us,"
This is us.
It's a copy, and she starts talking in that voice, man. She's like, "When I was," it's like, and that look on her face, man. It's like she's a beautiful woman. But if she did that look and did that voice, I wouldn't want to fuck her. You know what I'm saying?
There is no actress in Hollywood today with more beautiful features, facial features than Lupita. And it's just unreal how beautiful. This is how a beautiful dark-skinned sister can look. And Logan's wife is dark-skinned, so he knows the beauty of a dark-skinned sister. And I remember at the Oscars, Logan, for 12 Years a Slave, when she went up there and Brad Pitt was staring at her, because Brad Pitt was one of the executive producers. They're like, yeah, Brad, I see, you see what I see.
Yeah, she's just stunning beauty. But when she does the tethered chick, she's very ugly, so she can
because she's playing like a demon.
And she's saying, like, when she had a baby as a daughter, it was this beautiful baby, but when I had a baby, it was a monster. And she was laughing. The baby was like laughing when it came out. That's what she said. And that's like the copy of the daughter, who's like constantly smiling this very like devious smile. And then you have the son that she has, and he's another monster. And then she, and also she marries this dude Abraham, who is like, looks like the husband, but he's just like he's just a fucking monster. He's just like, he's like Chewbacca, So. And so it's unclear like what she wants, like he keeps trying to offer them stuff, and he offers them this like shitty boat that he bought, and like there was like a little line of comedy when she's like, the daughter's like, they don't want the boat, no one wants that boat.
Real quickly, let me interrupt you real quickly. I'm shocked. I didn't know this because I don't read magazines. I haven't read magazines in over 10 years. But in 2014, Lupita was named the most beautiful woman in the world by People magazine. Dang, I'm shocked. Wow. Well, there you go.
So anyway, at some point he ends up fighting with the big guy out on near the boat. The woman, she sends her son to deal with his shadow figure because she knows that her son can handle herself. One of them, the tethered Adelaide, she's just like tells the daughter, the non-tethered daughter, to go run, while her like laughing counterpart chases her into the woods. And meanwhile, they kind of just go, they're like fighting. The two Adelaides are fighting in the living room. The son, he's got his own mask, but then he sees the face of the kid, who's his counterpart, is all burned. And he realizes that the kid is obsessed with fire. So he has this little, I don't know if it's a lighter, he keeps trying to flick.
This is where the revelation is, where that boy mimics whatever he's doing. And so he puts his hand up with the lighter. He puts he pulls his mask up, pulls his mask back on. And the shadow version, the tethered version of him, is doing exactly what he does. And I was like, wow, her son is, even though, like you said, he might be one of those guys that'll kill a whole family, very smart.
No, he has a darkness in him. He's like the half breed between the dark and the light, because his real mother is a shadow person. So he's got half of that in him. That's why he's such a weird kid.
Oh my God. They talk about the shadow people. What was that guy's name? Coast to Coast. About the shadow. Art Bell was the first person I've heard talk about shadow people. I just thought about that. He used to always talk about the shadow people. The shadow people out there ready to take over. Rest in peace, Art Bell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Jordan Peele was a listener to that type. There was a lot of great stuff you could develop in the movies came out of that show, because they would have like a new guy on every night talking about the weirdest shit.
He had a weekly night, and they talk about the shadow people and all types of stuff. Shadow governments, shadow people.
Yeah, I mean, Carl Stern is still doing it on After Dark. So.
He talk about UFOs. Yeah, and Brian Alvarez is a huge fan. Was a huge fan of Art Bell. He used to always talk about Art Bell, and he was a big influence on Brian. So yeah, there was a point, and I think it was the late 90s or early 2000s, where somebody threatened Art Bell, or maybe even came to his house, and Art Bell stopped doing the shows. He had his assistant, his producer.
Was that the 90s?
That was late 90s, early 2000s. Because I remember going into 2000, he had a December 31st, because for all of 1999, Art Bell kept saying how Y2K was going to put the United States in ruins. I mean, he was scaring people, and he said he was going to be broadcasting from a bunker New Year's Eve past midnight, and he will reveal to the world, he will be proven right that the United States will be in shambles. Thank God he was not right.
Well, in any case,
the shadow peoples, yeah. So this is where Jordan Peele, like you said, Logan, Jordan Peele had to have gotten this idea from being an Art Bell listener.
Yeah, but he fleshed it out in a way that nobody would ever think about. I mean, this is
right, of course,
crazy.
Of course, yeah.
But I think he does it in a way that makes it kind of scientific instead of just pure demonry or fantasy. That's what I like about it. I think it's a science fiction piece.
But but there is demons. There's a demon aspect to these shadow peoples as well.
Right, but there's a scientific explanation. It's like when you have a vampire movie. Right. Sometimes they have these vampire movies, and it's like, comes like right from Satan, and it's just like, no, they just treat it as like the zombie movies. They treat it as a disease instead of The Walking Dead, like 28 Days Later or something like that. It's like more realistic. So I like that. I like that part of this, and they're definitely like giving you some kind of background explanation. It's a goofy explanation, but whatever, like let's just run with it. You suspend your disbelief. So they're it's not clear, what, but it looks like they're trying to kill their counterparts. So that's essentially what's trying to happen. But he manages to the son manages to trap the other kid by tricking him with this little lighter trick. And distracting him, and there's this locking. We see earlier in the movie that there's this locking corridor in the house that you can get locked in if you're not careful. So he locks the kid in there. That distracts the mom, the tethered mom, who's actually not the tethered mom. But throughout this whole movie, the tethered mom.
We think it is. Yeah.
We should just call her the ugly mom. So the ugly mom is like she has to go. And it's interesting because like. The kid's screaming, and she tells the good-looking mom tells the ugly mom, "Oh, that's yours," screaming, and so that makes her go and try to see, get her son out of there, and that allows them to escape and to flee, but not before the father ends up killing his version completely by struggling with him on the boat and then having him chopped up by the blades. So they end up getting on the boat and escaping before, are they even really that injured? I think like the father's like kind of limping, but I don't think they really received much. It turns out that the daughter is also half shadow because she is the half-breed between a shadow person
just like a brother. Just like a brother, yeah.
And she turns out to be a really good killer, one of the best killers of the family. So we'll see when they get to the neighbor's house, and that's a great scene where they're like, "Call the police," and then they like jump in with the fucking
fuck the police
as they're getting murdered by their shadow people. And these guys are such, talk about douchebag couple and douchebag daughters, because that's like what they used to do in classic horror movies. They'd always have people that get killed that you kind of didn't like. Alcoholic couple who doesn't give a shit, and a bunch of two bratty sisters, and they're instantly just murdered. They don't even stand a chance, and that's the contrast between the two families. I would imagine that most of the families played out like this one, like they just got murdered because they didn't see it coming, but not Adelaide's family. Adelaide's family's all alive, and they're kicking some ass. And then when they go into this house, they continue to kick ass. It gets tough. He has a big struggle with the husband, who kind of mimics their struggle in real life, like competitively. But she fights with a very scary version of Kate Moss, she really is doing a great job here too as a psycho version of herself, laughing in the mirror and crying and, doing all kinds of crazy facial expressions as she's very menacing. But what's interesting too is that she doesn't want to kill Adelaide. You can tell that she knows she's one of her. That's what I'm saying is like, yeah, and that's why Adelaide doesn't want to kill one of them either. Like, she doesn't kill any of them. She goes through the whole movie without killing anyone except for herself at the end.
Her real self, yeah.
But she doesn't want to kill any of these people. She feels a kinship with them, and they feel a kinship with her. They don't seem to want to kill her. But everyone else is on the target list.
The only person that wants to kill her is her real self.
But she doesn't even want to. I mean, this is
you
weird.
Sure about that? I thought she came for revenge.
Yeah, but you think about it, like, who came to find who in the end?
That's
I mean,
true.
in the
you're
end,
right. Yeah,
she went back down.
You got a good point. Yeah.
She didn't keep coming after her. I mean, she did at first. I think she first wanted to come after her and just confront her, be like, I'm back, motherfucker. You thought you lost me, but here I am. But in any case, they are they end up killing everybody, all the family, the tethered shadow versions of their friends and their daughters. They get through that, and that's a whole sequence that goes on in that house. And that's like the horror part of this movie. It's like the suspense and the fighting and the way in which you see that both these kids of hers are very adept at defeating these shadow people because they have that blood in them, and they're like, and to me that's a commentary on like people who grew up like kind of in the streets but didn't really have to like get involved with what's going on there, but knew how to deal with problems because they grew up in the streets. And to me, I thought that's what he was talking about in terms of like African Americans. Like African Americans, like always have some aspect where like they've seen poverty, they've seen things that white people don't see, and that makes them better equipped to deal with adversity.
To deal with it, right. Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, when a white person who's always had everything handed to them and gets confronted by like
they jump off a 40-foot window,
or they get slaughtered like their friend's family does.
Or they'll either commit suicide or they'll get slaughtered in this type of a situation. Yeah.
Right. So the idea is that like, if even though you live a shadow life, like maybe you think that because when you think about it, like the way our monetary system works, everybody's kind of chained to their job, and like you can't really do much with your life. You just kind of have to go to your job every day and like get that money, and like and you're like on a gerbil cage, and you're running on a wheel, and there's just like that's life for a lot of people, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I think he's just trying to show that like there's an aspect of this in all our lives, like, and it's very frustrating and very angering, and that's why people are like popping off and shit, like he's trying to give you that kind of ideas. Like people feel that they're like the tethered people in their real life, they feel stifled. They feel like they're not living the life they want to live. And they always are envious of their neighbor, like living a better life than they are, like on Facebook and on Instagram and all this. These people underneath are comparing themselves with the people above and being like, they're living this great life and I'm not.
Right. Excellent comparison. Yes.
And it's like we're all feeling that way. Like we look at each other and we think like, oh, they're doing better than me, like, and everybody's a slave to that shit. And and everybody's kind of sacrificing their own happiness because they think that it's grass is greener on the other side all the time. So they want to, you know. So he's giving you all kinds of different messages. I think people kind of miss the point of this movie. They're like, oh, it wasn't that scary, you know. It wasn't as good as Get Out. You know, I thought it was equally.
Yeah, because it was just as compelling. Because it's like you mentioned, Logan. It's political commentary with some horrific scenes.
Yeah. So you got this. So then it's daytime, and they've managed to get away from everybody, and they're kind of comparing who's like the biggest killer. And the father's just like, you got one, I got two, and she got two.
Yeah, they're comparing kills. Yeah.
She's like, I killed two because I killed myself and my friend. But anyway, but then, you know, the daughter comes for them. The daughter's there smiling, and the other daughter is driving. And she just runs her the fuck over, but she ends up on the roof and starts stabbing. And it's a very tense scene there but they finally throw her into the bush. And then that's where Adelaide comes up to her and is just kind of like, she doesn't kill her. She just kind of tries to get her to like calm down.
Right.
She goes to her like, shh, and it's really weird. You don't know why she's doing that. But and I don't even know if she even died. Somebody eventually kills her, right?
Yeah, the daughter. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And the way that the shadow son is killed is because he realizes that, hey, if I just do a movement in front of them, this must be true for all of them, though. They just didn't know they have this power.
The son figured it out because the shadow son pours gasoline next to the car and is looking to blow up the car. Right,
with all the family in it. Right.
So the real son knows that he can mimic, so he starts backing up, and there's a fire going on behind the shadow son, and the shadow sons walk right into it and gets burnt to death.
And you can tell that Adelaide's horrified to see.
Yeah, she doesn't want this boy to die, even though.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't know why at that moment until later on when the big reveal happens at the end of the movie.
But then, as everybody's distracted by that scene, the mom, the ugly mom, grabs the kid and takes him underneath to the shadow plate. So now at this point, everybody's dead, right? Except for the mom, the ugly mom.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And she takes the son. Because, so she takes the son so that, so maybe you're right. Maybe she did plan to kill her because that was her bait. She probably was taking the son, so that would lead her down there, and then that would be in her arena. And she could kill.
So she could be back in her rightful place.
That's right. She just wanted her to. Maybe she just didn't want. She just wanted to chain her down there or something. But
and then just change places. Yeah.
Yeah, but at this point, like everybody's on the surface now, so you know. But anyway, so she
and then
goes
everybody is up. All the shadow people have come up. And like 33 years earlier in Hands Across America, all these shadow people are holding hands throughout the United States.
They're doing this Hands Across America thing, and it's not really explained what the purpose of that whole thing is. But they've been on a murderous rage. When it's daytime, and they're coming back, they're seeing bodies everywhere, and it's just total carnage. So I mean, it's almost like civilization has ended. So maybe that was just their declaration of victory after they murdered all their counterparts. But this family is surviving. It could be a sequel.
This movie made a lot of money at the box office, over $250 million, over $250 million in the box office. Look for a sequel, but not right away because Lupita is a very, very busy star, as is Jordan Peele.
Well, but let's get to the end of this. So then they grab her. So she follows by herself. I don't know what happens to the other members of the family. Like, do they just go home and chill? She just like goes with a fire poker down underneath to kill her counterpart or to find her son. and she finds this like place with all these rabbits and all these corridors and tunnels. Somehow she knows exactly where to go, and she finds her counterpart in a classroom, and that's where she tells her the whole plan. We still don't know that they've actually switched places, that who we think is the Shadow Woman is not the Shadow Woman. So they have a big fight. She gets the upper hand. The pretty mom gets the upper hand and then strangles her to death. And then when she does, she lets out this crazy roar that sounds just like the roar of her fucking Abraham husband, and that look on her face. And she does it in front of the kid who's in a locker, and he sees the whole thing, and he sees that.
And he sees that his real mom is the Shadow Mom.
Yeah, because she gets all jerky too, just like the Shadow people do. And when she finally kills her counterpart, and she's so happy about it, and then she brings the kid, and she's just like, we're gonna be fine, right? And the kid just looks at her like, oh my god. And then they're driving away in the car. And that's when we see the Hands Across America thing, and she looks back at the kid, and the kid's looking at her like, I don't trust you. And then she has one of the same smile that the daughter had, the shadow daughter, like that kind of sick smile. And that's the end of the movie. So it's like left open. I mean, what the interpretation is, but everybody knows she's the Shadow Girl, and her plan worked. But we don't know exactly what the state of the earth is, but it looks like the Shadow people have come and murdered everybody except for maybe this one family. So maybe we'll see a sequel where it's like the family is just living now amongst the Shadow people living on Earth, because it's going to be like almost like a zombie world.
Almost like The Walking Dead, yeah.
Yeah, but these are just humans that are like soulless humans. So it could be done. But I think he's probably going to just do something different. It tends to be how he does things. He just kind of comes up with a new idea, and we'll see that probably in a few years.
It won't be right away because, like I said, both Jordan Peele and Lupita have a bunch of projects in front of them. I mean, Lupita is filming the new Black Panther. As she just released a book, she's doing a book tour right now. She just released a book, a novel that she's written. So she's very busy. And so if a sequel does happen, maybe not till 3 or 4 years from now.
This movie wasn't as well received as his first, but it was.
You know why? Because people were expecting one thing and got something else. The way the previews were, and Hollywood to do that, they'll mislead you. You thought this was going to be an all-in-out slasher movie where you have this identical demon family trying to kill the real people. And so, and with the title, Us, oh my God, is that the evil side of us? And so, that's why people were expecting one thing and got another.
Yeah, but they got a very rich, deep, like multi-layered movie,
which is the Jordan Peele way. And also think about it: you're not going to waste a great actress. And by the way, she's 36 years old. She doesn't look a day past 25.
She does look. I mean, she looks very young. That dark skin melanin. There you go. Has this been considered for Oscars or anything?
I haven't heard any Oscar buzz about it. And has a horror movie ever been nominated for any type of major Oscar nomination?
Yeah, there's only six horror movies that have been nominated for the Best Picture. Was Exorcist, Jaws, The Silence of the Lambs, The Sixth Sense, and Get Out. I mean, and Black Swan, but that's not really a horror movie.
I don't consider Black Swan a horror movie.
This movie was, though it did well, I think a lot of people were like, you're right, they were misled by the previews. But if you watch it again, I think this is the kind of movie you should watch multiple times.
It's like The Shining, Logan. Every time you see The Shining, you see something you missed before.
Yeah. So I really recommend just if you didn't like it the first time because you were expecting something different, just treat it as a sci-fi movie, I think. And then where there's some good horror in there too. What's interesting too, why it's not a straight up horror, is because you feel for these tethered people. You kind of understand why they want to rebel, and in many ways, it's like it's the American way. Like they should rebel. I mean, they've been kept underneath and like locked away all this time. And I think also it's a commentary on incarceration because
that's an excellent analogy. Yes. Like these prisoners, they get to escape after years of being tortured by their captors. I mean, they throw away the key and they're living these horrible lives inside. Like in the rabbits in the beginning of the movie, like just a tiny cell. And they live their life like that, like for 30 years, And like, there's people that are living that way and incarcerated, like for seriously like a 30-second decision or like a 3-second decision that they made. Not even 30, you're right, 3 seconds, right. Spur of the moment.
Like, and then he's also saying, look, like everybody has this shadow figure and like, it's not something to always hate. It's also something that can get you out of a jam. If you just live your life only in the light, when the shadow comes, it's going to kill you. So he's talking about, like, don't be ashamed of your shadow and you got to face it. Like, that's another theme in this movie is you have to face the issues that you're dealing with or they'll come back and kill you. So she never wanted to face what happened to her back in that little fun house, and because of that, it came back to her. So it's like, I think it's that whole thing that you got to deal with your issues head on, and you can't run away from them. So that's another message. But anyway, we'll talk another movie next week. What do you got there?
Next week, we'll be looking at The Dead Zone, the TV series version, starring Anthony Michael Hall, looking like Christopher Walken's son, playing Johnny Smith to the T. I mean, they couldn't find a better actor to play this role. He was tremendous in the 5 seasons it was on. The week after, Logan, do you consider the movie Spawn a horror superhero movie or just a superhero movie?
We could do it. It's fine, man. If you want to do that.
All right. And I love this movie. One of the most underrated superhero movies of all time. I consider a horror movie. Spawn, starring Michael Jai White, the always beautiful Teresa Randall, in 2 weeks, and of course as the evil clown John Leguizamo.
Right on. So hey, I think they're saying Joker is a horror movie too. So
that would have I haven't seen that movie yet. That definitely will be reviewed here because I'm hearing nothing but great things about this movie.
Yeah, it should be good. And I heard it is good. So we'll be looking at that and One Silver Man.
And you're speaking about Oscar buzz there. Joaquin Phoenix is getting Oscar buzz for his character of the Joker.
Yeah, he's doing great. Yeah, it's probably it's killing like expectations at the box office. It's really doing well. So
which is surprising because there are a lot of big time, high budget movies that are out right now, and Joker's killing all of them. You got Gemini Man with Will Smith. You got a lot of movies out there right now, and which is surprising for the month of October. Usually, the month of October, you get the throwaway movies until November when the Oscar buzz movies and the ones that people think are going to make a lot of money at the box office come out. No, September.
Gemini Man is like us, but just with one person. I mean,
right. I didn't even think about that. Right, because he's facing himself 25 years ago. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So he's facing. It's like Will Smith today versus the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
No, it's Will Smith, the 50-year-old Will Smith fighting the 25-year-old Will Smith. I think from what I read, the synopsis is the 25-year-old Will Smith or the One of them is sent into the future or the past to kill the other one.
Got it. That makes sense.
All
right, I want to see that. We got to review that.
Every time Will Smith does a sci-fi movie, money, and it's good. He's never done a bad sci-fi movie. No.
Except, he was supposed to do Matrix.
He turned that down to do Wild Wild West, which was the worst movie of his career. It was a major box office hit, but it was a horrible movie. Oh, my God. It was a horrible movie. I took my son to see that bullshit. Oh, my God. It was horrible. But, yeah, he turned down the Matrix. He turned down the fucking Matrix.
But good for Keanu Reeves.
Who needed it more? I mean, if it had not fallen into the Keanu's lap, who's to say he's not doing John Wick right now? 1, 2, 3, chapter 5, 6, 7. He might be on a Netflix series.
Yeah, if he's lucky.
Because remember, at that point in time, 1999, when The Matrix came out, Keanu Reeves had been forgotten about. The last hit movie he had was Speed in the early 90s. I mean, he was getting roles. He was getting bullshit roles.
They were trying to do like romantic comedies with him, and
he's an action star. He's an okay actor, but he's not. Even though I did love him, and we'll be doing this movie one day, I did love him in Hardball. He was good in Hardball.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
So we'll definitely do that movie down the line. That's where he plays the coach of a inner city baseball team based on a true story in Chicago.
All right, cool.
An alcoholic gambler who turns his life around when he starts coaching black kids.
All right, so we'll wrap it up here, and we'll talk next week. Juan Silva, have a great Sunday, man.
All right, you enjoy your week coming up. Next week we'll be talking the fights of the weekend, and we'll be talking about the Dead Zone, 2 episodes next week. Logan, talk to you next week, big man.
Talk to you then, man. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Peace.